So many people are talking about this study. Have you guys seen it? Drinks in glass bottles have 50 times more microplastics than drinks in plastic bottles. So wait, is plastic like now safer somehow? Hell no. I'm going to explain to you the real thing that we should all be learning from the study. It has nothing to do with the packaging. So there was a study that just came out from France, and they tested lots of different drinks for microplastics. So they looked at water, cola, tea, lemonade, beer, and wine. Now, they found that all the drinks packaged in glass bottles had more microplastics. And in this study, they say that it had to do with the caps on the bottles. And so just FYI, even if your cap isn't plastic, like it's one of those little metal ones, it still has a very thin coating of plastic on the outside as well as on the inside, and this is to prevent microbial growth. However, there is a way bigger lesson to be learned here that these researchers completely missed, okay? They did say that they did find that these caps could easily just be rinsed or like dusted off essentially, and that would greatly reduce the amount of microplastics that went into the beverage. Obviously, doesn't look like they're doing that in France. This has not necessarily been shown in other studies done in other countries. I mean, I love everything French, but this might be specifically a France problem. If you're just trying to avoid microplastics, well, these French researchers just confused everybody, right? However, there is a much bigger lesson to be learned here. Water had the least amount of microplastics in every single packaging format. However, which one had the most? Well, that was beer. Beer had the most amount of microplastics in every single format. Lemonade was consistently high as well. In every single packaging format, there were microplastics in the lemonade and showed to be some of the highest. Now, why is this? Well, the researchers didn't talk about that because they were just looking at the packaging. But I can tell you it's pretty straightforward. The reason why the same beverages, regardless of how they were packaged, had more microplastics directly correlates to how processed they were. This is the real lesson to be learned here, because it's not about the packaging at all. The amount of microplastics that something has is directly correlated to the amount of processing that it has. This has been shown in countless studies. So many people think that it's the packaging that puts microplastics into a food or a drink, but that is far from the truth. That has been shown to be one of the smallest contributing factors to microplastics in a food or beverage. Study after study after study shows that it's the amount of processing that is what puts the most amount of microplastics in a food or drink. So the real message here, it's not about glass versus plastic, it's about processing versus more natural, right? So beer, that's really processed. You have to brew it with the hops, and there's many different steps in the brewing process. Cola and lemonade, those are also highly processed. And they did also find a correlation between microplastic content level and whether or not it was sweetened, because yet again, adding a processed sweetener, that also probably has microplastics in it, and that would put more into that drink. These researchers missed the biggest thing about this study because they were so focused on the packaging. It is not about glass versus plastic. That's not the big lesson here. The biggest lesson here is about the amount of processing that a food or drink will go through.